Hello, my friends. It's Auntie Lace here, and I am so excited to read with you. We are going straight back to our Winnie the Pooh book because we have to get more reading in. We've got tons of chapters left, so we'll be on chapter 4 tonight. And remember, if you want to recap chapters 1, 2, and 3, I will put those links below in the video description. And you can recap with those before listening to chapter 4. But if you're ready and raring to go, then we're going to dive in together. But remember, we have something to do first. And what is it? That's right. We got to get our squishy squish. So tonight I have, you can tell this is an old squishy squish because he is slump-a-dumpin'. This is my dinosaur. And he is so ready to be squished. He's kind of looking frumpy, but that's just because he's well loved, okay? So have your squishy squish, arms crossed, and get ready in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I could fall asleep. No, we have to read. Auntie Lace, you gotta stay awake. We gotta read. I just got a little too comfortable on Mr. Dinosaur. Whew, we got stuff to do. We can't sleep yet. And if you saw my last video, you saw me wearing my new Pizza Planet PJs because I love Toy Story. Do you love Toy Story? It's just so good. So I have to just keep showing them off because I'm very happy with them. And there's an alien down here cooking some pizza. Do you like pizza? Yeah, it's so good. All right, we're getting utterly distracted. We need to get into Winnie the Pooh, okay? So we're on chapter 4, and we are ready to go. Chapter 4, in which Eeyore loses a tail and Pooh finds one. The old gray donkey Eeyore stood by himself in a thirsty? No, that is not the word. Start over, Auntie Lace, start over. In a thistly corner of the forest, his front feet well apart, his head on one side, and thought about things. Remember a thinking face? Good job. Sometimes he thought sadly to himself, why? And sometimes he thought, wherefore? And sometimes he thought, inasmuch as which? And sometimes he didn't quite know what he was thinking about. I've been there. So when Winnie the Pooh came stumping along, Eeyore was very glad to be able to stop thinking for a little in order to say, how do you do? In a gloomy manner to him. And how are you? Said Winnie the Pooh. Eeyore shook his head from side to side. Not very how, he said. I don't seem to have felt at all how far a long time. Now that is gibberish. Dear, dear, said Pooh, I'm sorry about that. Let's have a look at you. So Eeyore stood there, gazing sadly at the ground, and Winnie the Pooh walked all around him once. Why, what's happened to your tail? He said in surprise. What has happened to it? Said Eeyore. It isn't there. Are you sure? Well, either a tail is there or it isn't there. You can't make a mistake about it, and yours isn't there. Uh-oh. Then what is? Nothing! It's not there, nothing is there. All right, let me show you some pictures. We got him in the thirsty thistly bushes here. And then over here with Pooh and no tail. Uh-oh, I hope they can find his tail. All right, let's have a look, said Eeyore, and he turned slowly round to the place where his tail had been a little while ago. And then, finding that he couldn't catch it up, he turned around the other way until he came back to where he was at first, and then he put his head down and looked between his front. I stopped way too soon. Auntie Lace needs to get a grip. Looked between his front legs. And at last he said with a long sigh, I believe you're right. That's my Eeyore sigh. Of course I'm right, said Pooh. That accounts for a good deal, said Eeyore gloomily. It explains everything, no wonder. You must have left it somewhere, said Winnie the Pooh. Somebody must have taken it, said Eeyore. How like them. he added after a long silence. Pooh felt that he ought to say something helpful about it, but didn't quite know what, so he decided to do something helpful instead. Thank you, Pooh. Sorry. Auntie Lace, just mark them down how many times I keep, stumbling, but it's okay. We get back up. We just continue. And I know you're here with me and okay with whatever happens. I gotta stop missing words and lines. All right, here we are. Let's go. Eeyore, he said solemnly, I, Winnie the Pooh, will find your tail for you. Thank you, Pooh, answered Eeyore. You're a real friend, said he. Not like some, he said. So Winnie the Pooh went off to find Eeyore's tail. It was a fine spring morning in the forest as he started out. Little soft clouds played happily in a blue sky, skipping from time to time in front of the sun as if they had come to put it out, and then sliding away suddenly so that the next might have his turn. Through them and between them the sun shone bravely, and a copse which had worn its furs all the year round seemed old and dowdy now beside the new green lace, like Auntie Lace, which the beeches had put on so prettily. Through copse and spinney marched Bear, down open slopes of gorse and heather, these are some strange words, over rocky beds of streams, up steep banks of sandstone into the heather again, and so at last, tired and hungry, to the 100-acre wood. For it was in the 100-acre wood that Owl lived. And if anyone knows anything about anything, said Bear to himself, it's Owl, who knows something about something, he said. Or my name's not Winnie the Pooh, he said, which it is, he added, so there you are. Owl lived at the Chestnuts, an old-world residence of great charm, which was grander than anybody else's, or seemed so to Bear, because it had both a knocker and a bell pull. Interesting. We got a couple pictures to look at of Eeyore trying to turn and find his tail. But guess what's there? Nothing. Underneath the knocker there was a notice which said, "Plus ring if an answer is required." It's literally spelled like this. Let's do that again. Plus ring if an answer is required. That's literally how it's spelled. Underneath the bell pull there was a notice which said, "Plus knock if an answer is not required." What do you think these mean? I think the first one means, please ring if an answer is required. Please knock if an answer is not required. That's funny. Let me show you how they're spelled. Try to say those. Please ring if an answer is required. I don't know why I have to say it in that voice, but it is what it is. Am I right? These notices had been written by Christopher Robin, who was the only one in the forest who could spell for owl. Wise though he was in many ways, able to read and write and spell his own name, Wool, yet somehow went all to pieces over delicate words like measles and buttered toast. Winnie the Pooh read the two notices very carefully, first from left to right, and afterwards, in case he had missed some of it, from right to left. Then, to make quite sure, he knocked and pulled the knocker, and he pulled and knocked the bell rope, and he called out in a very loud voice, "Owl, I require an answer." Excuse me. It's Bear speaking, and the door opened and Owl looked out. "Hello, Pooh," he said. "How's things?" "Terrible and sad," said Pooh, "because Eeyore, who is a friend of mine, has lost his tail, and he's moping about it. So could you very kindly tell me how to find it for him?" "Well," said Owl, "the customary procedure in such cases is as follows." "What does crust-a-money proceeded cake mean?" That's so funny, said Pooh, "for I'm a bear of very little brain, and long words bother me." That is very cute of him to admit. "It means the things to do." "As long as it means that, I don't mind," said Pooh humbly. "The thing to do is as follows. First, issue a reward." We got a picture here of him at the owl's house. Very, very cool. It's in a tree. "Then, just a moment," said Pooh, holding up his paw. What do we do to this? What were you saying? You sneezed just as you were going to tell me. Ah, I didn't sneeze. Yes, you did, Owl. Excuse me, Pooh, I didn't. You can't sneeze without knowing it. Well, you can't know it without having been sneezed. Okay. What I said was, first issue a reward. You're doing it again, said Pooh sadly. A reward, said Owl very loudly. We write a notice to say that we will give a large something to anybody who finds Eeyore's tail. I see, said Pooh, nodding his head. Talking about large somethings, he went on dreamily. I generally have a small something about now, about this time in the morning, and he looked wistfully at the cupboard in the corner of Owl's parlor. Excuse me, this story's getting me all worked up. Just a mouthful of condensed milk or whatnot, with perhaps a lick of honey. Here's a picture of Owl and Pooh. Just chilling. Well then, said Owl, we write out this notice and we put it up all over the forest. A lick of honey, murmured Bear to himself, or not as the case may be, and he gave a deep sigh, and tried very hard to listen what Owl was saying. But Owl went on, using longer and longer words, until at last he came back to where he started, and he explained that the person to write out this notice was Christopher Robin. It was he who wrote the ones on my front door for me. Do you see them, Pooh? For some time now, Pooh had been saying yes and no in turn, with his eyes shut, to all that Owl was saying, and having said yes, last time he said no, not at all. Now, without really knowing what Owl was talking about. Didn't you see them? Said Owl, a little surprised. Come and look at them now. So they went outside, and Pooh looked at the knocker and the notice below it, and he looked at the bell rope and the notice below it, and the more he looked at the bell rope, the more he felt that he had seen something like it somewhere else some time before. Handsome bell rope, isn't it? Said Owl. Pooh nodded. It reminds me of something, he said, but I can't think what. Where did you get it? I just came across it in the forest. It was hanging over a bush. And I thought at first somebody lived there, so I rang it, and nothing happened. And then I rang it again very loudly, and it came off in my hand. And as nobody seemed to want it, I took it home, and... Owl, said Pooh solemnly, you made a mistake. Somebody did want it. Who? Eeyore, my dear friend Eeyore. He was fond of it. Fond of it? Attached to it, said Winnie the Pooh sadly. It was his tail. So with these words, he unhooked it and carried it back to Eeyore. Let's look at some pictures. We've got, you can see the tail hooked to Owl's house right there. So, whoops. And when Christopher Robin had nailed it on in its right place again, Eeyore frisked about the forest, waving his tail so happily that Winnie the Pooh came over all funny and had to hurry home for a little snack of something to sustain him. And wiping his mouth half an hour afterwards, he sang to himself proudly. Who found the tail? I, said Pooh, at 1:45, only it was 11:45, really. I found the tail. The end! Yay! Look at, he's so happy with his tail. Let's sing the song again. Who found the tail? I, said Pooh, at 1:45, only it was really 1:45. I found the tail. We are so glad you found the tail, Pooh. And now Eeyore can be okay. So that was chapter 4, and next time we'll read chapter 5. Let's see how many chapters there are. I wonder if it tells us in the front of the book. Let's check. It looks like we have, there's 2 sections. So this is Winnie the Pooh, which has 10 chapters. So we're almost halfway there. And then there is the house at Pooh Corner, and that's its own separate thing, and it also has 10 chapters. So we'll get to that eventually, but now next time we will be halfway to the end of this section. Yay! So I hope you have a wonderful evening or whenever you're watching this, and have an amazing week. And remember that Auntie Lace loves you, okay? And I'll see you again next time.